Mad for it. Five lads from Manchester took the world by storm. They were raw, they were real, and they had something to say. Right, listen up, you lot. Forget your Blur, your Pulp, your Suede. This is Oasis we're on about. The real deal. Five lads from Manchester, rough around the edges, but they could play. They had a swagger, a confidence that was unmatched, and boy could they write a tune. They were brash, they were loud, they were arrogant, but that was part of their charm. And everyone bloody loved them for it. They burst onto the scene in the 90s, a time when Britpop was king. But Oasis, they were different. They were bigger, bolder, louder. They had an edge that set them apart from the rest. Their music was anthemic, their lyrics relatable. They were Oasis, and they didn't care what you thought. They were like a breath of fresh air, a kick in the backside to the music scene. They brought a raw energy that was missing. And their music? Well, it was the soundtrack to a generation. Songs like Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger became anthems. So buckle up as we take a look at the rise and fall of Oasis, a band that burned bright and fast, leaving an unforgettable mark on music history. Ready? Let's roll with it on this supersonic journey. This is the story of Oasis. Burnage to Britpop. From humble beginnings to rock and roll royalty, the journey of Oasis is nothing short of legendary. Now, Oasis weren't born with silver spoons in their mouths. They were just regular kids from the streets of Manchester. They came from Burnage, a working-class suburb of Manchester, a place where dreams seemed distant, not exactly known for its glamour, you know. It was a tough environment, but it built character. The Gallagher brothers, Liam and Noel, they were the heart and soul of the band. Their bond was unbreakable, yet tumultuous. Liam, the younger one, was the frontman. He had a magnetic presence that drew people in. He was all swagger and attitude with a voice that could shake the foundations. His charisma was undeniable. Noel, the older brother, was the quieter one. He preferred to stay in the background, letting his music speak for him, but don't let that fool you. His silence was filled with creativity and brilliance. He was the brains behind the operation, the songwriter, the guitarist, the one who crafted their iconic sound, the one with the real talent. His lyrics resonated with a generation. The rest of the band, well, they were good, solid musicians. They provided the backbone for the Gallagher brothers' vision. But it was the Gallagher brothers, the creative force, the constant friction that made Oasis what they were. Their dynamic was electric. They started out like any other band, playing gigs in pubs and clubs, trying to get noticed. They were relentless in their pursuit, trying to make it big. They had a hunger that couldn't be ignored, but there was something different about Oasis, a spark that set them apart from the rest, a raw energy, a confidence that set them apart. They were destined for greatness and they knew it. The Oasis origin story. See, it all started with a band called The Rain. This was the humble beginning of what would become one of the most iconic bands of the 90s. Yeah, not very rock and roll, is it? The Rain struggled to make an impression, playing small gigs with outdated equipment. Liam was their roadie, lugging equipment around. He was always there in the background, watching and learning. One day he heard them rehearsing and thought, I can do better than that. It was a bold thought, but Liam was never one to shy away from a challenge. And you know what? He was right. His confidence and raw talent were undeniable. Liam joined the band and they became Oasis. This was the first step towards their transformation. Noel, who was working as a roadie for another band at the time, was less than impressed. He had seen many bands come and go, but he saw potential in his little brother's band. He recognized that there was something special about their sound. So Noel joined as guitarist and songwriter, bringing his own unique style and vision. And the rest, as they say, is history. But it wasn't all plain sailing, you know. The road to success was fraught with challenges and internal conflicts. They were turned down by countless record labels. Each rejection was a blow, but it also fueled their determination. Told they weren't good enough, they faced a lot of skepticism, but they never let it break their spirit. But Oasis, they didn't give up. They kept rehearsing, kept refining their sound, and kept believing in themselves. They knew they had something special. Their confidence and perseverance were unwavering. And finally, they caught a break. Their hard work paid off when they played a breakthrough gig that changed everything. They met Alan McGee, the boss of Creation Records. He was a visionary who could see beyond the surface. He saw the raw talent, the potential that everyone else had missed. He knew they had the makings of greatness, and he signed them on the spot. This was the beginning of Oasis's journey to becoming legends in the music world. Definitely, maybe the album that launched 1,000 bands. Now, 1994 was a good year. Why? Because that's when Oasis unleashed Definitely Maybe on the world. It was like a punch in the face. Raw, energetic, full of attitude. The album shot straight to #1 in the UK charts. And it stayed there for weeks. Live Forever, Supersonic, Cigarettes and Alcohol, the anthems just kept coming. It was the sound of a generation. The album that defined Britpop, and it made Oasis superstars. Suddenly everyone wanted a piece of them. The Gallagher brothers were everywhere. On the radio, on TV, on the front page of every newspaper. They became the bad boys of rock and roll, known for their wild lifestyles and their even wilder pronouncements. They didn't care what anyone thought. They did things their own way, and that's what made them so brilliant. What's the story Morning Glory? Bigger, bolder, and still brilliant. But Oasis, they weren't done yet. Oh no, they followed up. Definitely Maybe with What's the Story Morning Glory, an even bigger, bolder album. If Definitely Maybe was a punch in the face, then What's the Story Morning Glory was a full-on assault. It sold millions of copies worldwide, spawned more classic anthems, Wonderwall, Don't Look Back in Anger, Champagne Supernova. It cemented their status as one of the biggest bands in the world. They were selling out stadiums, headlining festivals, winning awards. They were unstoppable, and they were still the same old Oasis, still arrogant, still outspoken, still brilliant. They were living the rock and roll dream, and they were doing it on their own terms. Mad for it, Oasis conquered America too. You see, most British bands, they struggle to crack America, but not Oasis. They conquered America like they conquered the rest of the world. With their music, with their attitude, with their sheer bloody-mindedness. They played sold-out shows across the States. They appeared on MTV. They even graced the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. They were the biggest British band since the Beatles, and they were only just getting started. Champagne Supernova and other anthems, a legacy etched in stadium gigs. Now, let's talk about the music. Oasis wrote songs that connected with people. Songs about hope, about love, about despair. Songs that you could sing along to at the top of your lungs. Songs that made you feel alive. Wonderwall became an anthem for a generation. Don't Look Back in Anger was the perfect breakup song. Champagne Supernova was an epic masterpiece. Their music was everywhere. On the radio, in pubs, in stadiums, it was the soundtrack to our lives, and it still is. Oasis may be no more, but their music lives on. Don't Look Back in Anger. The Gallagher brothers, a volatile mix. But it wasn't all sunshine and roses, was it? No, Oasis were as famous for their fights as they were for their music. The Gallagher brothers, they couldn't seem to go 5 minutes without arguing. They were like a couple of old women bickering constantly. They threw insults at each other. They threw punches at each other. They even threw instruments at each other. They were a right pair, those two. But somehow, it worked. Their volatile relationship was all part of the Oasis mystique. It was what made them so unpredictable, so exciting. And let's face it, it made for some great stories. Falling out of the sky, the inevitable breakup and solo careers. But eventually, even the Gallaghers couldn't keep it together. In 2009, Oasis finally imploded. After a particularly vicious row, Noel quit the band. Liam and the rest of the band continued for a bit, but it wasn't the same. Oasis without Noel was like a car without an engine. It just didn't work. So they called it a day. The Gallagher brothers went their separate ways, both pursuing solo careers. And you know what? They're both doing all right for themselves, but it's not the same, is it? There's a certain magic that's missing, a certain spark, the magic that only Oasis had. Live forever. Oasis's music lives on, inspiring generations. So, there you have it, the rise and fall of Oasis. A band that burned bright and fast, leaving an unforgettable mark on music history. They were the voice of a generation, the soundtrack to our lives. They may be gone, but they'll never be forgotten. Their music will live on, inspiring generations to come. And that's what really matters, isn't it? The music. So next time you hear an Oasis song, crank it up loud, sing along at the top of your lungs, and raise a glass to the Gallaghers, the brothers who gave us the soundtrack to our lives.